Welcome and welcome. I always go back to fun. Greetings and welcome to another Pan African Community News Update. The date's the 27th of March 2022, and you're here with me, your host, Dr. Toyin Agbetu, or Brother Dr. Toyin Agbetu, and Sister Oleander. Hopefully you can hear us okay. I don't know, Sister Oleander, you want to pop in and just say a hi?
Greetings, everyone. Nice to be here on this lovely Mother's Day. I hope you've all had a beautiful day, all those mothers out there.
Okay, cool. And we're going to go through the news over the last 2 weeks. If somebody can please give us an audio check, let me know that you can hear us okay. It's going to be a jam-packed show. We tried to do this within 60 minutes, but this one might stretch to 90 minutes. As you can imagine, it's been a very stressful and busy, I don't know if that's the right word, traumatic last couple of weeks. So I'm going to really go on, but remember, you can interact with us. You can use the chatty thing on the Facebook and the YouTube. Hopefully you should be there. As I said, when you're ready, please let us know that you can actually hear us, because we are still kind of like figuring this thing as we go along. But I'm going to keep rambling and keep talking, and hopefully you'll kind of bear with us and let us know if there's any problems. So let me go to the first part of our program, which we normally start with remembrance. And unfortunately, I heard tragic news that our beloved elder, Reverend Huey Andrew, joined the ancestors. For those of you who don't know him, he's a community activist, definitely a leader, and founder of the Queen Mother Moore Saturday School. I found him a very inspirational elder, as someone who was raised as a Christian and as a Muslim. My father was Muslim, my mother was Christian, so I was kind of like raised observing both faiths before I chose a traditional African spiritual path. It was very refreshing to find someone like our beloved elder brother Huey Andrew, who found a way to talk about Christianity in a way that wasn't alien to us, that kind of like brought out the best in people. Just as a leader, as a community organizer, and even just having a Saturday school, he opened up the church door to make sure that the community itself was always catered for, even when the state itself was letting us down. So it's just a remember for our elder, Reverend Huey Andrew. May the ancestors be pleased with his work. And then another passing is that of Professor Selwyn Ryan. Now, he's a Trinidadian social scientist. I'm not as familiar with his work as I am with Baba Huey Andrew, but what I do know is that he was raised in Trinidad. He took some time studying kind of like the politics there. He was a big fan of Eric Williams, the hero of capitalism and slavery fame. He left Trinidad, moved to Ghana and Uganda for a period of his life, where he engaged in economics and politics, which was his forte. He continued. He was there. I think he was commented on the Idi Amin era. But when he came back to Trinidad, he was also writing newsletters and updates and newspaper articles, etc. So he was a prolific activist and writer and political and economic columnist for ourselves, as well as a scholar. So he joined the ancestors, and may they also be happy with his work. And this one came just a few days back. This is we just learned of the passing of our sister Nicole Andrews, the beloved wife of our brother Professor Kinde Andrews. For me, it came out of shock. She had cancer, and as many of us know, sometimes you kind of live with it and you just kind of like manage it, and then sometimes it creeps up on you and it hits. And so, it was quite a heartbreak to hear that she passed, and she leaves behind a loving family. And our brother Kinde Andrew, he said to honor her memory, please donate to her Race for Life page, and this is a fundraising campaign for cancer. So I know that people are making contributions. So if you want to kind of honor a life, please go on a Fundme page. You can access it through Facebook, through Twitter. I think the tweets has the links, and so the Facebook pages on there. So yes, just another we remember. And then we also remember our brother, elder Neville Howard. I think he was 96 years of age when he joined the Ancestors. Recently, he was from the Windrush generation. He's a singer based in Cardiff. He used to sit on the park bench, and children used to listen to him singing. And he was one of those stalwarts, lived through the most racist times in the UK, and still tried to keep a positive look on life and help others through it. There is, as you've probably seen in the picture behind him, there is memorials to him. There are exhibitions talking about his presence in Cardiff, and so like I said, he recently joined the Ancestors. May the Ancestors be pleased with his work. And in this brother, I think they called him Baz One Eye is his nickname. We remember Barrington Patterson. He was a martial artist and a Samaritan. Never get that word correctly. And I say Samaritan. Let me give you a brief background. Again, I'm not familiar with him personally, but from what I've read and learned, he initially started off as a martial artist. He was, champion and fighting in these kind of like kickboxing, all these kind of different type of contact sports. He was a well-known bouncer in his area, so people saw him at the front doors and stuff, and so he had a kind of reputation. He was even involved with some it sounded like a ruffian hooligan group for a short period of time, but then as he got older, and what happened was that he started getting engaged in dealing with youth violence, addressing issues like gun and knife crime, and even later on during the coronavirus and the pandemic, providing food parcels for local residents. And so this is why there's this kind of like big groundswell in the area for him. So Barrington Patterson, martial artist and Samaritan, we remember. I think I'm going to have to do something about having some music. We used to have music on Yansapo behind the We Remember section. I don't know if I can do that easily on this platform, but it's something I want to work towards. So you are listening, you are watching me, Toyin Agbetu, on the Pan-African Community News Network. Is that what we call it? Okay. Pan-African Community News Update. We're going to figure out which one we're going to call it. But anyway, either way, it's our news, views, and reviews from a UK perspective and a Pan-African perspective. It's 27th of March, 2022. I hope that you're here. You can see us and hear us online. Sister Oleander, I don't know if there's been any comments, or are we still good to go? Mic check. Has anyone give us a mic check yet? It'd be appreciated if anyone give us a mic check, or am I just talking into that?
No, there's not any comments as yet. We haven't had any response regarding the mic check yet either.
Okay, well, hopefully they can hear us. Okay, so let's get on to the first news story. And I think there's only one that we have to start off. And I don't really want to rehearse all of it. And even though there's a lot to talk about, it's the abuse of the child referred to now as Child Q. And I suppose I have to rehearse. I have to go over it because this is an archive, right? This is something for future generations to look back in 10 years' time to understand kind of what we were going through. But every time I go over it, it becomes very traumatic. It becomes very personal. It kind of hurts. So in the tail end of 2020, a young girl in a Hackney school, we know the school, but we won't name it for legal reasons, because the child is taking the school and the police to court, so they have a court order. So she was in her exams. This is a 15-year-old child in her exams. School teacher says that she can smell weed on her. They take her out of her exams. They search her bag, her clothes, all these kind of things. Can't find the weed. So rather than leave it there and take her back to the exams, even though that would be distressful enough, teacher decides that they're going to call the police. And it's might seem strange why they're calling the police, because aren't there a lot of police in schools? And unfortunately, yes, there are a lot of police officers in schools right now. But because this was during lockdown, the police officer who was normally on site wasn't there. So they called the police, and external police officers came into the school. The child was placed into one of these medical rooms, and she was strip searched. And when I say strip search, she was on her cycle, so they got her to declothe, become naked, bend over, and remove her sanitary towel. And while the search was conducted to see if she had any spliff on her, she didn't. They didn't contact her mother, didn't contact her, any carer, no teacher. They just abused this 15-year-old child. And then, put her clothes back on and sent her back into the exam. And I think someone somewhere along the line thought, oh, maybe we should send her home in a taxi. So I don't know if that makes your heart feel like mine. But that's the situation. Like I said, most of us know this story. We're aware of the details. And so there's been a lot of protests about this. And the reason why there's been a lot of protests and a lot of anger about this is because this didn't happen a couple of days ago, within the last 2 weeks. This happened in 2020. So this is people in authority, people we speak to, politicians, teachers, kind of like governors, have known about this for over a year and a bit. And there's something quite upsetting, disgusting, to know that our children have been going into these institutions where there are people who are supposed to be having their welfare at heart, subjecting them to searches, strip searches, and this kind of abuse, and don't even have the decency to check with the parents. The fact that we have politicians who have known this has happened and said nothing to us while we're being abused through stop and search and all the other kinds of police violence that's affecting our children, and they've known this has happened and they said nothing to us. There is a bit of politics behind it. I don't want to go into all of it. Just a really quick summary is that the report, in fact, let me go to the next slide because that might make it.
Okay. Sorry. Before you do that, first of all, we've got some mic check positive messages.
Excellent, thank you.
And also we've got a message from Andrew Roach saying, every time I hear the account of the incident, it's difficult not to turn up at the school with outrage.
Yeah, but I feel you. I don't even like to verbalize it. The anger, just yeah. Thank you, and thank you for the mic check. Thank you for being in touch. So let me just go through some of the things. I was explaining some of the context of what's been taking place, and I'll go through all this. So I don't know if you can see the slide. The details are a bit small, but basically what happened was that we only know about this because there was a local child safeguarding report made that detailed what took place, and it was the Jim Campbell's council, CHSCP, who wrote it, and even that report, which we got a couple of weeks ago, it's like a time zone. What happened, and what people don't really know behind the scenes, is that the Metropolitan Police tried to stop it from going ahead, this review, and the National Child Safeguarding Team tried to stop it. They were saying it didn't meet the threshold for needing this kind of extra scrutiny. And so, to their credit, if the Hackney team hadn't said, we actually think it does reach the threshold, and actually push forward with this, we would never have known. And what really makes me so angry that it's like even now I can feel the tears. It's this idea that this young 15-year-old fought for a whole year and a bit, a whole year, that this could happen to her and nobody would care. That she could be abused in such a way. And yes, this child safeguarding investigation asked her questions about it, but there was nothing in the newspapers. There was nothing on the council website. There's nothing on the school governing minutes. There was nothing. It was like she was worthless. And that's why I'm really, there's one reason why I'm outraged. And it's also why I feel thankfully our community came together to say, no, this no go so. And we saw politicians who are normally spineless even talking up. We saw people coming from all corners recognizing that this happened. And if you read the report, it's not a long report, but it's worth reading because there's going to be a lot of what we call whataboutery with it. Because there's, there are some people saying, well, she was already on that list towards exclusion, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't someone else she was friends with recently excluded because he had spliff, so blah, 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 blah. There is no justification for this. There is no excuse for this. So anyone who comes with that whataboutery, you need to slap them down. But to do that, you need to read the report. And what's good about the report, which I will say and commend to it, is that right in the final section, they kind of like go straight through the issue, directly hitting on the head of racism. The report's not perfect. I'm not going to go through why it's not perfect right now, but at least we know about it because of it. But it does specifically have a section on racism, because what you know and we know is that if that child was European, this would never have happened. I don't need to be Professor Xavier with kind of like psychic powers. We know this would never have happened. No teacher and no police officer would have taken a minor. I can hear myself. So let me quick summary. This is why I don't like to talk about this. Just deal with it with action. So where are we now? Well, there's quite a few developments in the last couple of weeks. So there's been the 2 mass protests that I spoke about. The family of Child Q has actually launched 2 legal action. One against the Metropolitan Police, another against the school. The Independent Office of Police Conduct, the IPPCC, the CPA or PCA, whatever they want to call itself this week. This is the body where police officers investigate police officers. They've actually now launched an investigation. And this is what I mean, it sort of picks me off. They're doing the investigation now when they knew it happened in 2020. So this is why you know that anything they're doing is not done from justice. It's not done from a righteous position. It's done from the same position like that clown in Parliament, the one Boris Alexander Piffle Johnson. They're only doing it because they've been caught. So anyway, they're doing an investigation, and apparently the investigation has been finalized. So we should hear from the IOPC what they've concluded. We've also heard from that inside the school where Child Q was, that the staff are saying that they didn't actually know the strip took place. So they're saying that when they placed the child, the 15-year-old, in custody of the police officers on the school premises in that locked room, but actually they had no idea what was going on. There were rumors on the day of the first protest, and this was an amazing rally organized by Hackney Cop Watch with No More Exclusions and other local groups present at the time. Someone did say that one of the teachers had left since then. And it's really difficult working out whether the teachers are there or not, whether the government teachers there or not. I kind of want to name and shame them, but we just had to have patience on that. So we'll see what happens on that. A couple of days ago, we just heard that the 2 Met officers who were involved with strip searching the young sister have been removed from frontline work. So they're just sitting on a desk behind the counter. They're not being suspended. And the last thing I want to talk about as well, and I'm not going to go into this for much, is that there's been this gaslighting comment from the Equalities Minister, Kemi Badenoch, who actually, let's be clear about this, because many of you will remember this from the New Cross massacre, how long it takes for the institutes of state to actually acknowledge our humanity, acknowledge our pain. So it took 9 days before the clown actually came out and said something. And what he said was quite nonsense. It was horrific. I can't say anything until the investigation is done. But what happened before that, all his minions were coming out. And Kemi Badenoch actually said, well, actually, yes, I am upset. It was a really bad thing that happened. But you know what? At least we know that the fact that the UK cares about her shows that Britain cares about minorities. This is the kind of gaslighting tactic that came from there. So because people came out to protest is a way to say that the UK is not racist. This is what I call the wrong and strong approach, where because they know that they're masking racism as a government, and they're doing everything they can to gaslight us on racism, they use every opportunity, even the abuse of a 15-year-old, to score political points. So we're going to talk about a few other things that have happened in the last couple of weeks, especially from that one's mouth. But I just wanted to share that.
Okay, so there's been a few comments from Andrew. So I'm going to just put them all up one at a time so that you can see them.
What's he saying?
So Andrew Roach is saying white female teachers are the worst, and then too quick to react with fear.
No, just 1 second on that. You know, this is one of the interesting things about this case, because people are having a recognition of what they call adultification. And this is a concept which defines a process where young African children, normally African children, are seen as, even though they're young, they're seen as adults, they're seen, and as such, they're not seen as the default vulnerable child. They're seen as these kind of like grown-ups, and they're over-sexualized, they're stigmatized, they're, you know, or and then obviously in this case they get brutalized. So we're used to talking about this narrative with our boys, where, you know, we send our little babies into school and the teachers see them, and, you know, they're European, they're female, they're not used to the kind of like a physicality of us, you know, of our young boys, as they see them and they think that they're adults, when clearly they're not. Well, to us they're clearly not adults. This is part of the issue. And so this is where we come to this concept of adultification. And again, you can see that child Q caught directly in that. But sorry,
yeah, so the next comment is too quick to react with fear.
Yeah.
And, you know, we know that's absolutely true. And the next one is unwilling to adopt any other approach when dealing with our children.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So this is why, I mean, I said on the protest, one of the movements that came out and helped organise the session, the first organic protest, not the political one outside the town hall, which was a good protest, but was done for political reasons as well as community reasons. It's a good called No More Exclusions, because the only tactic that these education facilities seem to have when they're frightened of our children is to exclude our children. They have sin bins, in what I call them sin bins, but what do they call them? Quiet rooms, these euphemisms, you know, where they place our children in a room by themselves. Basically, solitary confinement in primary schools. They don't use the word solitary confinement, but that's what it amounts to. And if they can't break our spirit through solitary confinement in primary schools and secondary schools, then they have these temporary exclusions. And if they can't deal with temporary exclusions, then they have full-time exclusion, and then they go into PRUs. And for those of you who don't know, PRUs are pupil referral units, which is really, then we start moving on to the education to prison pipeline. There's a direct correlation between school exclusions and prison. Direct evidence. I'm not even going to go through stats. I don't do that. So yes, thank you for that, Brother Andrew.
So yes, thank you for that. And then there's a couple more. Look up the governors of the school. It's noticeable that the makeup contains sufficient diversity that you would expect a better attitude of the staff.
Yeah, and this is something that we are working on. We need more people who are governors, but we need more of the right people who are governors. We're sometimes being bamboozled by this concept that we call the illusion of inclusion. And so schools recruit parents who they don't actually want them on their governing body, they actually want them on their PTA, I don't know what they call it, the Parent Teacher Association, where they just do fundraising and they do diversity weeks and all this kind of stuff. And they don't actually want them scrutinising their finances or their curriculums. And so that's part of the work that we committed to. We had to build a capacity of parents to actually get involved. And so when these things happen, that the whole staff, the whole senior leadership team knows that when they come to that governor meeting, that they're at risk of being fired. They have to feel that, but it's taken a long time to get there. So, but like I said, when we are able to name the school, there's more things I'd like to really share about that, which is outrageous, especially in a happy school. But I'm going to move on because, like I said, there's so much news to go through. So let me go to the next slide. This is the story, which, you know, I don't know if you've seen this one, but this is incredible. This is where the police have detained a young African, not because he was smart spliff, not because he had a knife in his hand, not because he had been running from a violent altercation or robbed someone, but because he was wearing a coat. This happened a couple of days ago. And you might think that, no, Toyin, come off it, don't be silly. Nah, I'm not being silly. They wanted to know why he was wearing a coat because they thought the weather was hot and therefore it was odd for him to be wearing a coat. And because he wasn't being docile when answering them, they actually went ahead and handcuffed him. And handcuffs is the first act of violence. Be clear about that. When you start handcuffing someone, I've been handcuffed and those things hurt. They cut into and they leave marks that are there for months. Yeah. So this is what happened. I just wanted to, I'm not going to labor the point with this story. We don't have much details outside it. We haven't seen the whole body worn camera, but we have seen that interaction and we have heard that justification. And that actual justification does not comply with what we're told that they should be doing when they come out of Hendon with their training guidelines. So this is not a justification for actually stopping someone, let alone detaining them and using force for a handcuff to detain them. But people seem to think that, you know, we're kind of like exaggerating this stuff. This has happened a few days ago. And then what's the next story? Okay, so this one is the Welsh online, isn't it? WO, yes. You know, long and short of it, this is a politician who said the statistics were disgraceful. They did some research because when we talk about stop and search, when we talk about the police, I'm often talking about the Metropolitan Police or police forces in the UK. But we forget it's not just isolated to London. It's not just isolated to Birmingham or Manchester or Liverpool. It's actually across the whole UK. And so actually in Wales, and if you think about how small Wales is compared to the size of the force and the population in England, actually their stop and search statistics is actually higher. This level of disproportionality when it comes to stopping and searching innocent African people than it is in England. Not by much, but it's significantly higher. And it's just outrageous. And so the statistics are being announced. And I just thought it was important to share this story because we need to kind of like have that context. It's not just a local phenomenon. It's not just happening in Croydon or in Hackney or in Boston or wherever no, this is wherever we are, they stop and search us. That's it. Even if we are tiny populations, even if there's just like two of us, if there was 2 of us in the whole city, the 2 of us would end up being 50% of the stop and search statistics. Every single other day or something would be stopped and searched. That's how bad it is. We don't talk about it. We don't really conceive it in those terms, but that's the situation. So I just wanted to share that story. I'm gonna
sorry, just to say that Andrew said he recorded it, and also handcuffs dehumanize us.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, when you have handcuffs on you, then instantly what happens is that you are made into a public spectacle. People walk past you and think that you did something wrong. People think that you are a criminal. So even though there's supposed to be this context of being innocent or being guilty, the handcuffs in public spaces with police surrounding you, people tend to just naturally drop, unless of course you've had encounters with police officers yourself and negative ones, then you tend to know the truth. But otherwise, you are dehumanized and you become just a statistic and villain, and people can just walk past you.
Okay, and one more from FP Combs. She says, what I have found very interesting is that TikTok is being used as an additional political platform for disseminating news and in many cases saving lives, which is different from Twitter.
That's really interesting, and thank you for sharing that. I don't have a TikTok account. I know what it is. I'm not familiar with it. I thought it's just people doing funny dances on it. But I have noticed that this footage which was recorded was shared on TikTok, or it's recorded on TikTok before shared anywhere else. So it seems like it's changing its purpose, and that's one of the good. That's the genius of young people. Somebody might set it up to do one thing, but young people might see its utility another way. And perhaps it's time for me to join Instagram and TikTok. Actually, no, it's not. In fact, if everyone else can join TikTok and Instagram and just tell me I'm happy with posts, emails now. But yeah, those platforms are becoming more political. And in fact, I'll leave the discussion. I'll talk about different social medias. They have different profiles and different audiences they reach, and they strategically have different purposes for us.
So FP Comms again says, which is only words, that's Twitter she's referring to. Platform of proof.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think because those platforms, I don't know if Instagram is still pictures only. I know it will do videos and everything else, but I think it started off as a pictures primarily. If TikTok is primarily videos, then it does become a platform of proof. It does become the go-to space for people who are thinking, I want to record something to share quickly in a video format. I don't know. We'll have to keep our eye on that and look out for it. But yeah, again, it's a good thing. I mean, this is the thing with technology moving so fast. The good thing is that we do have the ability to actually record these situations. There is policies and protocols you have to do. If you see a stop and search, I know people say they want to intervene, and as someone who has done that for decades and ended up in a police van, has been tasered and locked up because of his interventions when he's seen young people abused. And I would say that, yes, what happens is that often you stop the young person being harassed if you're very lucky. And that's happened to me. Young person stopped being harassed and they were let go, but I ended up being arrested. And so I have a strategy, and I say, if you see a stop and search, the key thing you need to do is kind of like provide a narrative and make it clear that you're observing, not interfering. So say that when you're filming them, I'm observing, I'm not interfering. Keep a little distance back, and then give eye contact to the young person, and talk to them and see, are you okay? Try and get them to come back. And then one of the things I've been doing recently, but I'm going to change my policies. When it's very young people, I don't film because I wanted to protect their identity. But because of a recent case where I saw police officers putting handcuffs on teenagers and the teenagers were frightened, they let the teenagers go in the end. When I made a complaint about their unprofessional behavior, what happened was that the police said that they couldn't find the footage that they recorded on body-worn cameras. And so I think we have to film, at least if we don't film the young people's faces, we have to make sure we film the badge numbers. So those are just tactics that we can do. Anyway, there's a lot more stories, so I'm going to keep moving on. You're watching the Pan-African Community News Update, 27th of March, 2022. Just going through the news over the last couple of weeks. And yeah, we normally a 60-minute program. We're probably going to end up being 90 because there are so many stories. So let me go to the next one. And this is just a quick stat just for you to know. I'm not going to go over it for too much detail. That there has been some research. This is Open Democracy, who have found out that the rate of unsolved killings of African and Asian people actually trebled under Cressida Dick. And it made a jump from 8% to 21%. So she started in 2017. She ended, as we know, this year as a 3-time increase under her watch. And it's really important to understand that. We also need to understand that when police officers are accused of abuse, and often it's sexual abuse as well, they get to keep their jobs. So there is no real punishment. So what I'm taking from this is that corruption within the Metropolitan Police Force has gone through the roof. And that's because you have these officers who want to do anything to be in with rank and file, and they're not really thinking about themselves as being public servants anymore. They're thinking of themselves as commander-in-chief of a militarized force. And I think even during her watch, I remember someone actually once saying that the Met was the biggest gang in London, and they were proud. They were very proud to make this statement. So these are the facts. And when we think about unsolved killings of African and Asian people, we had to remember that they're parents of those people who have been killed. They're our loved ones, they're family members, they're spars and families. So these are unsolved cases still in place. So let me try and turn the story a little bit more. It's still related, and this is quite a strange one for me. This story just came out recently. This is Teresa Roberts, and it's really odd because our declaration, she's my auntie. She's my father's best friend before he passed away. And she is a, an amazing woman, amazing role model. You might know Jamaican Patty stores in Covent Garden, which she runs, and I was quite shocked to see this story. I remember this vaguely as a child. I remember vaguely hearing about her husband, but I didn't know the detail until this week when I read this story where she explains how he drowned after a group of European men threw him in the River Thames, and the police just thought it was a joke. They didn't treat it seriously, and so it's one of those things that scarred the family, and this is why I want to link it to that story about unsolved killings of our family members. This is real, and this is a legacy issue. It's not something that just happened with Cressida Dick. This is something that's been going on for a very, very, very long time. The inset in the slide is also about an exhibition. Auntie Teresa, she has one of the largest collections of Jamaican art in the UK, and so in the V&A, there's an exhibition called Jamaica Making, and it's running from the 19th of February to the 9th of July. And if you want to go and see some beautiful art from African artists who hailed from that wonderful island, Jamaica, you're welcome to go there. She is really supportive of up and coming and indigenous. When I say indigenous, I'm talking about indigenous African people. Like I said, it's strange for me because it's like family meeting work, and I don't normally try not to do that too often. So let me move to the next story. And this one is, oh God, yes, that face. So, sorry, I shouldn't say it, very unprofessional of me, Toyin. So most of you will be familiar with the CREED report, the Commission for Racial Equality and Disparities, or some nonsense like this, by Tony Sewell or Tony Sewell. It was discredited. It was gaslighting. It said that institutional racism didn't exist. Said that slavery gave us a new positive story. All this kind of stupid. I'm not going to go over all of that stuff. Well, the government's taken its time and it's reported back with a list of recommendations to it, and it's called its report Inclusive Britain. I'm not really going to go through all the recommendations. They're not all rubbish, actually, which is, got to be fair about that. They're not all ridiculous, even though they're all underpinned by a ridiculous preface, which where Kemi Badenoch says something along the lines of, well, Britain is a land where anyone can rise, and look at me, I've made it to the top of my game. So if I can make it, anyone can make it. That's the kind of nonsense she says, and that's how it opens this report. And so I kind of just wanted to share that this is out now. No one's really paying any attention because it's coming from a bunch of clowns who no one has any trust in. The language, I mean, I've read, I think I got as far as like 6 or 7 pages and I just stopped. It doesn't even understand the science or the language. It's really like it's written by illiterates. But anyway, it's out there. I did see one of the recommendations was this argument about, or this idea about developing, doesn't say instituting, but developing a framework for independently chaired community safeguarding trust groups by 2023. Because obviously we don't need them now. We can just wait. I mean, like, it's not like Child Q just happened. I mean, why do we need safeguarding now? So unfortunately, that's one of the recommendations. And I know that MOPAC are doing something similar. MOPAC is the Mayor's Office for Police and blah, blah, blah. And they're also going to do some consultation and wait till 2023 before they put in proper scrutiny panels. So right now, police officers can just do what they want. They're just running around, you know what I mean, just kind of like mashing us up, stop and search, no scrutiny. And apparently by 2023, as the government says, they would have developed the framework, which means that hopefully then by 2024, they would have started looking for the people who would start recruiting for the groups. And then by 2026, we might have the first pilot independently chaired community safeguarding trust group. This is the kind of foolishness that what happens when you put these kind of people who look like us. This is the illusion of inclusion into power. And I'm talking about the government, and I am also talking about some of the people in the Mayor's office.
Okay, so every time I open up to unmute, it unfortunately echoes. So sorry, please bear with us with the echo. Joe Williams says, Memories of David Olawale, 1969. Leeds has just opened a bridge in his name.
Thank you. Yes, I remember, and I heard about that. I think is it Olawale Bridge or something that they've put up there, and it's about time, because he was God, if I start talking about the story, but he was the first deaf in custody in the country that we know about, where an officer was convicted, or one officer was convicted. There was an amazing play done by Adultification, and the hounding of David Olawale. And it kind of like talks about what took place there, and but it's yeah, this is just, like I say, it's gaslighting. It's just ridiculous scenario.
Okay, so there's more. 29 recommendations. That was talking about the previous slide.
Okay.
And I have printed as could not read on screen. Plus, I can put down regularly as necessary.
So when you say you can put down, thank you. Okay. Yes. Sorry, it's trying to get the slides up to the right size and stuff. It's a bit of a challenge. It's the most I can do, unfortunately. But thank you for the updates on the information. I just want to give again just feeding into the comment I just said about the recommendations about setting up a panel. Something I just saw today, actually, so it's brand new, is this idea that there's going to be now a new inclusive support network for what they call minority ethnic staff. I mean, actually, that's another thing. The inclusive report I spoke about just now, the Inclusive Britain report, actually recommends ditching the term BAME, BAME, Black and Minority Ethnic, but they signpost that already. But the reason why I'm showing this particular slide, this particular story here, is that I saw this on Twitter, and it's coming from one of the chairs of the National Black Police Association. And I know the National Black Police Association has done some really good work pushing back hard against some of the racism inside the Met. So if you think about, the police is racist on the streets. You have officers who abuse us. But what we don't talk about is that actually for officers who are inside the Metropolitan Police, the likes of Leroy Logan, for example, you might have seen the Steve McQueen documentary on his life. Officers who are of African heritage who are inside the police, they also face extreme racism. So the BPA, the Black Police Association, so there's different ones, the Metropolitan Black Police Association, the MBPA, they have been running for years, and each of their chairs and each of their members are often picked off by powers within the force. And so this time, it looks like that actually they've found someone who looks like us, this police constable Joy Kie, and she's actually now speaking with the senior leaders at the Metropolitan Police, and it looks like they're setting up a rival network to the MBPA, and that is completely just the wrong approach. I mean, this is divide and conquer all over again. But you might start to see that. I don't know her. This is just something I just seen literally around an hour ago, so I haven't had a chance to dig into it. I went onto the police website. I read her story. They talked about her being a mother with 4 children, blah blah blah, and she's new. And one of the things when I read that, she did read and come across as someone very, very naive, and that's how they like to pick us. They pick someone who's got the best intentions at heart, but has got no experience, and then they use them as the face for their own misdeeds. And so it looks like this could be taking place, but we'll find out. But I wanted you just to kind of have a heads up on this story, because this, again, this is how it works. Okay, then we go to the next slide. And this one is about the government decides not to follow. I think the government follows the creed. Oh, yeah, sorry, the government, let me get this right. I don't know if you remember in 2017. In 2017, when Theresa May, the robot dancing one, she did this, or was it disparity? No, audit, this racial audit. I think that's what she called it. She came out on Downing Street when she'd just been elected, and she talked about meritocracy, but she talked about discrimination and race disparity, and so we have to do something about this. And it was this big report, blah 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 blah. And so she said, we have a gender audit to reduce the gaps between male and female discrimination and pay gap. So we're going to start doing something about ethnicity pay gap. Well, the Creed report, so this is the thing, not the inclusive thing I just talked about, Inclusive Britain report, but the Creed report, the one by Sewage and his friends, they actually said, no, we don't need an ethnicity pay gap. No. ditched that. I mean, they started saying, no, if we start having an ethnicity pay gap when we're just coming out of lockdown, we're just putting more pressure on businesses to do more reporting, putting more things into the effort. No, we don't want anyone looking at the gap of pay between staff of different backgrounds. And so even though the government, because it's the same government, right? Just because it's got a different head, Boris Johnson is still the head of the Tory party, just like Theresa May was. So what's happened is that the government has actually ditched Theresa May's line, and they've followed Tony Sewage's line. And so now they're actually not making it mandatory, and they're saying that they're going to put some guidelines so people can voluntarily report the ethnicity pay gap if they want to. This is what the government's doing. I don't think I need to comment anymore on that, right? And so what else? What kind of other madness? So, boy, when I say madness, I really meant it. So, over the last week or so, most of you couldn't have failed to see the nonsense that was taking place in the Caribbean, from wanting to land their helicopter or plane on indigenous land, who telling them, no, you can't land here, so they have to find somewhere else. And then the worst insult is going to Jamaica and imposing by a statue of Bob Marley and then beating down on Nyabingi drums and acting. I mean, it was just, everything was just like, what is going on? And, this was kind of like the House of Windsor trying to, I say House of Windsor, but it's the House of Saxe-Coburg. Got to be clear about that. That's their real name, just in case you didn't know. They changed their name to Windsor because they were racist against other Europeans. Like, they were racist against Germans because the Queen's family is German. So they didn't like the term Saxe-Coburg. And so that's why they did that. Oh, sorry. Okay. My hands, sorry. So that's why they did that. So anyway, they went to Jamaica. They awful optics. You can see them looking at caged children. It wasn't really caged children, but that's what it looked like. You could see them doing a colonial tour or colonial-like tour, and the good thing is, what I say is the good thing, is that when they had the reception with the PM, he just fired them. He just told them, yeah, we're moving on. He kind of like did a reversal of what Cameron did. I don't even remember Cameron. When Cameron went over there and started talking about how, Britain has this great regret for slavery. It's time to move on. We'll do this reparation thing, but we're not going to do it in money. We're going to build you some prisons and you'll send back Jamaican people there and you can have a bit of money for that. And unfortunately, we agreed to that like idiots. What's happened now is that Jamaica has actually just seen what's happened in Barbados becoming a republic and just said, no, we're moving on now. And so that's a good thing. And I've heard yesterday as well that Belize is also going to be moving on and hopefully becoming a republic. So it looks like the House of Windsor is starting to topple one by one all of its possessions. And in fact, that's what peed me off as well. Actually, if you read the statement that the Andrew boy, not Andrew, the William boy says, he actually says, my mother or my grandmother, the Queen of Jamaica, blah, 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 regrets, blah, blah, blah. And just the bare-faced cheek. It's kind of like that stupid Steven Seagal film. What's that stupid one when he goes to Jamaica and beats up every Jamaican and then flies back out as if that could ever happen? Just bare-faced cheek to come to Jamaica and then talk about his grandmother as a Queen of Jamaica. No. This is what's happened over the last couple of weeks. I'll move on because I spent too much time on that. And there are other things that are related I want to touch upon. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. This was the case of there's a sister, Sonita Alien, I think that's how you pronounce it. She was campaigning to get rid of this memorial to a slaver that's in Cambridge, the Jesus College Chapel. Well, it went to this court, this Cambridge Church Court, and they decided to keep it. And the guy running it, this David Hodge QC, says, no, we're not going to get rid of this thing, even though, yes, we know that he was definitely involved in slavery. We know this without a doubt. That's not in question. But it's a false narrative because he didn't make as much money as everyone else. So, people are saying he got rich off slavery, but actually, when you look at his books, he didn't make that much money. So that's a false narrative. So we're going to keep the memorial to him. That is actually a justification why they're keeping it. And then the other thing is, and by the way, it's like, it looks nice and it makes the building kind of like have some value. So if we took it down, it would kind of not be so pretty. So yeah, we're going to keep the statue. And these facetious, disgusting little comments, you've got to remember, this is actually coming from a church. This is the moral heart of the nation. Yeah, even Webley, what's his name? Andrew Webley, the I can never remember, the Archbishop of Church of blah blah blah. Well, even him saying we need to kind of stop doing this because we can't ask African people to go into church and kneel before a memorial to a slaver, someone who enslaved their ancestors. Even he knows that. But up and down the country, ever since this government started its culture war and its gaslighting and all its nonsense about so-called wokeism, it's emboldened the rednecks, not just those in big companies, but also those in churches and those in schools, all those in the police, to actually come down and push against us with their chest. And we kind of need to stop that. Let me go to the next story and talk about someone who's done some amazing work stopping that, and that's our brother Tony Walker. He is, he runs Black History Walks, and while he was touring the new rejuvenated Golden Square Freedom Park in Bridgetown, Barbados, there was an interview with him inside, I think it was the Barbadian Observer or Barbadian Times. Yeah. And he just says, like, you know what, it's time we actually just kind of reaffirmed and boosted these African Caribbean links. And when I say African Caribbean, I'm not talking about the ethnicity group. I'm talking about flying from the Caribbean to Africa and working together and doing business and education and all these kind of things. We just need to do this. And he makes a really, really amazing point. He talks about how, when you have to go to Africa from the Caribbean, you often have to go by France, and you by France and then you go to Senegal. You can't get there direct. And we just need to stop that, because even just by doing that, by detouring through a European nation, they get the airport tax. So there's all that money going inside that. There's all those lost opportunities. We need to have more direct links. And if you don't know Tony Warner's work with Black History Walks, please get to know the brother. I mean, I've known him for so many years, and he's been behind the scenes from when he was doing the Education Through Film program in the 100 Black Men, when he was in the African Odyssey panel. I think he still does the work there with the BFI, and obviously the amazing Black History Walks project. He's also artist in residence at UCL. So, like, you know what I mean? What he is saying is on point. We are one people. And we have to have those links, those through links going back and forth. It's not an either or situation. Okay, and one example of where it is working is in Grenada. And this is where you can see the difference, what happens. You see, because Grenada is actually saying, you know what? I think Warner's got a point there. They didn't actually say that, but you get the point. They're saying, I think Warner's got a point there. And so what they're doing is supporting education of Ghanaians who are being run out of Ukraine because of all the racism in there, and saying, you know what, you can continue your studies here in Grenada. And you see, for me, that just touched my heart. That's the kind of initiatives that we need to do. We need to say, it don't matter where you are. If you're in the diaspora, you come home, and any of us are your home. So that's just an amazing, good story. I mean, I'd normally put that for later on, but it's just letting you know that these initiatives are taking place. So why is that important? Because when we don't do things like that, then people like this young brother, Chaz Carl Powell, went to Jamaica to visit his girlfriend. He's got locks now. So in the photo, you can't see it, but he hasn't got locks, but he had locks now. He had locks when he went there. What happened was that his passport was a bit damaged. So, he kind of like, I need to get it updated and stuff like this. And the long and short of it, he had sickle cell. He normally has he normally has transfusions every 6 weeks. So he went to the airport and they said, nah, this ain't you. We don't believe it's you. You got locks here. He says, look, I really need to get back because I need my transfusions. I'm feeling under the weather. They refuse it. So he went to some embassy, tried to get a new passport done. But in the time it took for him to get the new passport, because they refused him from flying back because they couldn't see his face features, they were fixated on the hair and other things, he passed away. And so his mother is just heartbroken. He just needed a transfusion. That's what he just needed, a transfusion. And so this is a hard one, because I think it was in Gatwick, but I can't be sure. But I think that he went to the Jamaican hospital, but they couldn't deal with those issues. And that's why that last story is so important, because we need to be able to go anywhere, especially to any of our own homes, and they need to have the expertise like sickle cell treatment or blood transfusions without having the problems that our brother Carl Powell had. And I know. So yes, you are watching Pan-African Community News Network. Me, Toyin Agbetu, just going through some of the stories with Sister Oleander. And so this next story, yeah, this one's a revelation in many ways. I read this one this week. There's a report from the Royal Society of Chemistry, and surprise, it finds that there is structural barriers for African chemists, not only in academia, but also in industry. And it's the same old story in most disciplines. So, like, you know, in this report, they were focusing on the fact that of all the research grants that were being given, that there was a tiny percentage that was going to people of African heritage. And it's really what I found quite upsetting and quite just outrageous is that the report was actually authored or co-authored by Professor Robert Mokoya, and he's one of the chairs of the Royal Society of Chemistry. The Royal Society of Chemistry, yeah. And you know, I was reading through it and stuff like that, and one of the things that came up was that actually he is the only professor, the only African professor of chemistry in this country. That's 1 out of 575. The only one. I mean, I know we know the numbers are really low, but you don't actually think about it from a disciplinary level. That actually in chemistry, you got, you know, so if you're in a room and there's 1,000 of them, you know what I mean? Well, not in this case, 500 of them, there's only one of us there. And that tells you the scope of the structural barriers. They don't use institutional racism as a word, but they do talk about structural barriers and kind of hint towards racism, all these kind of things. We know what it is. This is what's taking place. I don't really like to always say bad news, but this is the situation that we're dealing with. And, you know, again, another story that's going to annoy you, unfortunately. This one's about Afrophobic policing having serious impact on young children. It's like we don't, you know, we know what when we talk about stop and search, we talk about child Q, so we talk about strip searching, but actually goes far more than that. What's happening is that we have a problem with missing children. I didn't even know how bad it was. I think when we started this broadcast is when it first came to mind how many of our children go missing every week. I had no idea it was so bad. I remember when lockdown was happening and there was people talking about ice cream man van snatching up children and stuff like this. And I remember thinking, is that a bit conspiracy kind of thing? But I remember there's all this kind of stuff going around. But what I found out since then is that there has been, there's almost like an epidemic of young Africans just going missing. And so this story was a one that really annoyed me. There's a young son, the one on the, I don't know if it's your left or right. He's on my left. Apologies, I haven't got his name. But he went missing. Mother went to the police. They he's missing, whatever. I think it was, you know, like maybe 6 years old. It was very, very young. I see the picture there. Anyway, they didn't take it with the seriousness that she wanted them to. And they found him 6 days later, dead in a storm drain. And they did this investigation to find out what went wrong. And what they found out was that the chiefs, the people who were making these decisions were saying, well, you know what it is? It's like, you know, people, we just didn't have the budget to put people on overtime. There's all these financial constraints. And so, you know, we're really sorry, but, you know, it was just, you know, we couldn't keep searching. It was like, it was just too expensive. And also some officers have this, and he actually used this term, missing person fatigue. You know, we're just tired of looking for missing persons. So this is what it was in the report. These are their words.
No. That little girl that went missing in, I can't remember what country it was.
What, the Madeline one?
Yeah, they never got fatigue with her.
Yeah. And they're saying that they got fatigue with this little boy after just a few days.
6 days. They found him dead in a storm drain.
I can't even. Wow.
So, I mean, there's a new alert up there for a 14-year-old boy who's been missing since, I think it's the 20th. It says the weekend on the headline, but it's the 20th of this month. So if you do see him, please contact the police. They've had to reissue this because he's still not turning up. But this is a serious problem. I don't think we even understand how serious it is. We go to the next story. And thank you. And this is this is the issue about justice. We don't really receive justice unless we take it. And I don't know if you know the case of the 29. This is, I mean, we hear about Extinction Rebellion now and climate change warriors and all this kind of stuff going on, stuff like that. But you know, we know that most people from the global south, whether they be indigenous people in the Americas, you know, to people on the motherland, you know, we have been environmentally conscious for centuries. And so in the late 1990s, some of you will know about Ken Saro-Wiwa and how he was murdered by the Nigerian, he's executed, sham trial, executed by the Nigerian government because Shell was polluting in the land, and there were kickbacks going to the Nigerian government. And the Ogoni 9 were all the others who were also murdered. Some didn't have trial, they were just murdered. And so some of the widows, I think it was 4 or 5 of them, actually took Shell to court. And so they went to The Hague, and you know, they've been fighting this case, but unfortunately they lost their case. There had been protests outside that with Extinction Rebellion, and I thank them for that. That was the right and good thing to do. And you know, my sorrow and anguish for the wives to still not have justice against these people, especially when you think about the billions of profit that these companies are continuing to make by raping the planet. It's just outrageous. And one of the wives there, and I'm sorry I don't have the names of the Ogoni 9 in front of me. I should have really done that so I could actually share that with you. But one of the women, she makes this point that for her, just even having the case heard is actually it helps her, it's on that path of justice. And I'm like, that's not even enough. I mean, I can imagine being ignored. You know, this has happened in the late 1990s. And they're doing the case now in 2020, you know what I mean, or 2022. But it's a negative outcome. But you know, the positive we take is that we have good memories, and we don't forget, and we keep fighting until we secure justice. So I just wanted to share.
Okay, and so Amapoku says that's horrific and heartbreaking to hear that fatigue was given as a reason for not looking for this poor child.
Yeah, I don't even know how you can do that. How you can say that. Thank you for sharing that, your comments. I mean, how can someone even respond to an investigation with that comment? I mean, what kind of human being are you? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But those were the words. I didn't make them up. I didn't paraphrase them. I mean, that's the exact words that they used in the report. I'll try and get a copy of the whole report because I'm looking I looked at 2 articles that was reporting on the report. But yeah, those were the words that are inside there. And also financial constraints that, you know, the officers, they couldn't have the money to pay overtime. So this is the part of the program where we do community reviews. And I say community reviews, it's still kind of like up and down trying to figure out the exact format. I don't know whether that's events that I've attended or you've attended or whatever, but we're going to try and work through how that works. And so the biggest event that I think I have to talk about, which I attended and I think was of the most significance, was last week or this week. How does it work? Sunday's the new week, isn't it? Was the community meeting for Child Q that took place in the Ed Pet Centre in Hackney. And it was the most humbling, beautiful, powerful session I've been to for a very long time. It was run purely by the young people, the amazing Hackney account team, Rise 365, the Voyage Youth. And they came together and they gave testimony about some of the things they've been experiencing over the years as children. And it was heartbreaking to hear the abuse they've faced on the streets, at schools, how many times we as parents have not actually done what we're supposed to. We haven't believed them when they've said how bad it is. And then they split the group. I mean, it was over, you can't see it in the picture, but there was over 100 people there. It was an amazing session. They split the group into 3 sections, and everyone started discussing action points and solutions and things that they want to start working on to put in place. I'm not going to obviously share all those kind of things, but there were some really good talks about building coalitions, actually, on who's in, and there are a few things that were raised and discussed. I want to big up brother Akala for turning up. I mean, I can't express how. What's that term? Gassed. I think that's the one. The young people were gassed to have him there, and you know why I love that brother? Because he could have just taken a mic and just spoken for hours, and everyone would have just listened, but he didn't. You know what happened? He just sat and he listened as they shared their stories, and they forced him to talk. And even when he did that, it was like a very brief statement acknowledging what they were saying. And Jermaine Jackman was there, Leroy Logan was there. I mean, it was the young people's program, and I just felt as an elder just humbled that I was able to be some part of it. And of course, all the Tim from Hackney Accountant, who leads the research program, and all the amazing organisations, from Please Stop Watch or Hackney Stop Watch to Hackney Quest, all of them that were there. It was just absolutely amazing. So that's what took place this week. Another session that took place, and that's taking place again tomorrow, is the Child Q Community Action Group. And this is something that I'm actually working on with Sister Oleander and an amazing team of just concerned, beautiful people. And if you're interested, what's happening now, I don't know if you can see from the last picture, that's dealing with the police issue. We're dealing with the schooling issue. So this group, the second group, that first meeting, is dealing with issues. Like we spoke about governors, but we're also talking specifically about child safeguarding. How do we secure that? And the first meeting kind of worked out the objectives, action, kind of like the focus of what our outcomes are going to be. And tomorrow's meeting is going to be dealing with the action plans. We don't need any waffle. We don't need to go over anything again. If you're interested, please pay. I'll be checking it up till later on tonight, and then after that, you'll get an email telling you where to come for the meeting tomorrow. And we're just doing work. Initially, we're doing it face to face. Part of that security. We kind of want to just meet everyone's just social. We want to meet everyone who's working together, but we will provide online meeting options for those who have registered. It's going to be a closed group once I take that link down, and only the people we trust will be part of it. That's one thing about the EdPed Centre where we work, and in general, is that we're not going to let those Trojan horses in. We'll do our best to keep them out and just get the work done. We don't need people who are going to give us history lessons for these kind of action work groups. We just need to get on with the work. So if you're interested, please just check the link in my Facebook page or my Twitter page or wherever you can find it. And if you know someone who might be interested, please share it with them. We need more people. We always need more people. Anyway, let me leave that for another day. More people. Okay, and so this was another event I want to just talk about. There was this amazing open letter about the Afrophobic treatment that's been experienced by African migrants and people trying to leave Ukraine. And that was sent to the Ukraine embassy. And what you might have not seen in the news was there was actually a protest outside the embassy. And we had our sister Nana Haja Salifu Dakaturi. We had Sister Nana Shante and Sister June Lewis, and there's various coalitions from the Global African Conference Congress to the IDPAD UK coalition to NPAD, which I think is the European Network for People of African Descent. And so, like 60 signatories on this letter of protest, and of course, is not going to report on this, and because there's this kind of like ridiculous idea that we can't do two things at the same time. That we can't be concerned about Ukrainians being hurt and Africans being hurt. We must put all our focus on one group. Well, actually, no, because we know that there's a serious issue with neo-Nazi and racism by Ukrainians targeting African and Asian people as well. And so making this point is really important, and having this protest is something I just think I want you to share, so you know that we are actually active and we don't turn a blind eye to our family wherever it is. A nice story, I hope you find it nice, is the one about the South London brunch cafe called Mud. Now, this is a brother and sister duo who took it over, I think, in 2017, and their success is so, I mean, they've just knocked it through the roof when it comes down to cuisine, lovely manner. And often what happens now is that people are queuing down the streets, they're just going round and round just to actually get there for brunch. They had a lot of challenges during the lockdown. They actually thought they were going to kind of had to close down and lose the business, and they just innovated. And that's what I love about us. We have that capacity. They started selling, like, regular goods and using what's that? I can never remember these all these acronyms. Those transfer things, where people do it, orders on the phone and they come deliver it. Deliveroo, that's it, that Deliveroo type service. But one of the things I loved when I read the story that they shared, or that was shared about them, was they said that people could actually get some of the goods that they were selling cheaper from the massive supermarkets, but because of their professionalism, because of their spirit, the way that they actually wanted to keep the business going, so they kept on ordering from them. And I think that's lovely. And so now they're back in business, they're doing their thing. It's a small space, but it's just a good news story. It's just a reminder that, we can and we do thrive, and we do have that ingenuity, we do have that creative spirit, we do have that entrepreneurial that energy, that that's why we're still standing. So yeah, is it Kemilia and Femi Ogumuyiwa? You think as a Nigerian man I'd be able to pronounce these names even better, but yes, unfortunately it's a problem with being anglicized. I'm working on it, and I need to speak to my brother Kola about improving my Yoruba.
Sorry, what kind of food do they do?
They do quite a mixture, actually. I can't remember. I remember seeing there was plantain and some, what was it? I remember thinking when I was reading their menu, they do some traditional dishes, but they also do some kind of like when I say European, I'm talking about continental European dishes. So okay. I think they're hitting people who are working in the area. That's why they're such a successful brunch thing. So they just mix it up, and nice. So people like a different surprise each time. And South London, that area, I might just jump by and see what it's like. Okay, so now this is a good one here, because I don't, as a rule, do any adverts, even though I do good news stories. But I just wanted to put a call out to our brother Dr. Perry Stanilas, and he's been involved for 15 years with the Tahuti Investment Club. And he reached out to me, and I sent an email to him, but it bounced back, and it's really strange, the technology. The emails keep bouncing back, but I just wanted to say something, because he's organizing, he's been doing this for some time, a way for people who want to invest and actually start their businesses and get that expertise. And so I just thought, yes, if they're going to have a new website launch, something to check out again, because we do business. I might not talk business, it's not my area of expertise, but it's good to know there are others who talk business. And so I just wanted to share that with you. This is one that really warms my heart. This was this next story. Let me hold on 1 second. And this is this is the story of our beloved sister, Dr. Amabini, and she is actually heading up a new scholarship, two scholarships for students of African heritage, and it's going to be a master's in international slavery at the University of Liverpool, and it's going to be paying, it'll be covering all the fees, and I think it's a £10,000 stipend as well, for something to live on as well. So this is a really great opportunity for someone who actually wants to kind of like go that route, get that knowledge. And if you've ever heard or read the works of Dr. Amabini, you know, you would understand what a privilege it is to be schooled by someone of her genius. So this is an amazing opportunity for someone out there. In time, I'll be trying to do something similar and signpost in place at UCL and helping students or whoever potential students to get ready their proposals and stuff like that. I'm not quite ready. I've got too much work on right now, but that is my long-term plan. I often see scholarships, but I get 5 minutes notice. So this is going to be this program is going to be launched in September. So if you're interested, go to the University of Liverpool website now, check it out straight away, and then start preparing. You know, and one of the things when you're doing these kind of things as well, don't forget you can always email the lead module convener and ask questions if you're not sure. But you know, we need more of these kind of opportunities. We need more academics who are actually interested in our heritage, interested in our history, and actually placing it in a global context that is not one of victimhood.
Okay, so hold on. So sister's saying that is amazing. She's so powerful.
Yeah, she is.
That is amazing. She's so powerful, so just like you, Toyin.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. Yeah, she is. I mean, she's you know, got a crush. You know what I mean? It's like you know, the way you know, I'm a doctor now, but she was one of those icons that kind of like made me want to be. That kept me going on as well. And we forget that we have them here. We often are told that we have to go abroad to look for people who are capable of actually having academic rigor and spiritual integrity, but actually we have them living here. And you know, I like the idea of there being more of us helping out. In fact, there was this Walter Rodney quote that was recently flying around on Twitter that I saw, that is that I use the words that they use, but he uses, but I don't use the word. Obviously, I don't use racializing language, but he says that Black intellectuals and Black scholars must be engaged in the efforts and the actions of the Black, essentially. So he's talking about basically those of us who are in academia, those of us who are doing intellectual work, for us to have any kind of real relevance, it must be connected to the struggles of our people as African people. And Walter Rodney, as you know, was like a powerhouse as well. So this is something else I feel very strong about. Okay, we're coming close to the end. And we opened with a libation to our beloved elder, Baba Huey Andrew. And on next Sunday, the 3rd of April, there's going to be a tribute to him taking place at the Chestnut Community Centre. It'll be led by a brother Mbandaka and the Al-Qaeda and Revivers movement. And I will say that this is one of the things that Al-Qaeda movement does beautifully, and they do very well. We often forget that these rituals are the lifeblood of our community. They're the lifeblood of who we are. And by forgetting them, we get absorbed in other people's rituals, which denigrate us, that makes us forgetful of who we are, what we are. So, you know, I just want to big him up for organizing this, but, you know, I should expect nothing less. But I thought I'd just share that's taking place. And let's see what else is going there. And then again, about us being involved in these things, Kwaku from the BBM is holding a reggae stakeholder meeting this Tuesday, the 29th of March. It's going to be held online at Zoom. You'll have to go to Eventbrite to find. I think if you go to Eventbrite, type in reggae stakeholder meeting, it will come up. And, you know, people think, hold on, he's talking about reggae. What's Buff Buff doing in the Pan-African news program? And it's really about more than that. Not only the fact that reggae has a spiritual heart that drives many of us, and through some of the worst times of the Afrophobia and imperialist racism that we've experienced in this nation, but also that it has come under such assault when we lost stations like Choice FM and we had the crackdown on our community radio stations. They used to call them pirate radio stations. That we need to always come together just to make sure that we're still surviving, that we still have a foothold, that we still have some kind of control over our own cultural assets. We saw what happens when we let the clowns from the House of Windsor go and pose next to statues of those that we revere. So this is a stakeholder meeting. I think it takes place every year, and it's just where producers, artists, those who are involved in the industry, from promoters, can actually just talk about what needs to be done. Now, I think we need to do this not just for reggae, we need to do this for everything. So I'm just bigging it up just so everyone knows that it's taking place if you're interested or you're involved in this this initiative. Community champions, and I think we started in the last session. We had just one, but this time there's a couple more. So I think I put the S on the end. So the first one I'm going to start off is with the amazing Sister Yolanda Lair, and she's now the account project officer. She just recently moved into that position, and she is I mean, the words that are written on the screen don't even do justification. An exceptional community leader. She's a speaker, she's a poet, mentor, and youth practitioner. And she also published her book, about the journey of an undefeated mind, how to survive this. One thing this is what came up in that meeting that I spoke about earlier. We don't always acknowledge the damage that policing, racist education has on the mental health and well-being of young people. And there's people who does, and she's written a book kind of like how she navigated through it and how she's still come through the other side, and now she's leading one of the most important youth organizations in Hackney in many years. It really is inspiring to see her doing that work, and and so I just thought I want to kind of like big her up. And then the next let's see, the next person I want to big up, I say person or people I want to speak up, it's a story that came through kind of like unexpected. I had no idea about this, and I was quite shocked because I'm normally finger on the pulse. And this is the story of two sisters based in the UK, Patricia Daly and Tokumbo Koiki. And I don't think they'd actually met. I saw a video of them talking about it. They hadn't actually met. But what happened was they heard about what's happening for students trapped in Ukraine, and they were so angry they decided they're going to do something about it. And so they started an organization called Black Women for Black Lives, and they raised $250,000 to support them. And so they've had to put kind of like packet volunteers and packages and finances in line, and everything that it takes to do this kind of humanitarian work. But they've done it. I mean, in fact, I went on their website a couple of days ago, and my heart went out to them when it just said, look, today we're not doing any more work, we're not taking any more emails, we're just completely drained, we're just tired. It's just it's just a few of us doing this work, but we'll be back tomorrow, and something like that. And I feel that I totally know it. But I just thought I wanted to big them up as community champions, because this is the message that I really want us to understand, that it's not someone else that's going to come save us. It's us. You look in the mirror and it's going to be you. We are our liberators. There's no one else. No one else coming to help African people on this planet. We have to do it. So this was just like an amazing story. Well, I think it was an amazing story about how we can organize. And I think, our sister spoke earlier about TikTok becoming a political platform. Well, yeah, I mean, whatever it takes. They used these are two sisters who've never met before. And yeah, they used online raising the tools and gathered people together to actively help our students trapped in Ukraine. So you can actually see there's a couple of videos on the BNC, the Black News Channel, I think it's called. on YouTube. I watched a couple of them. I mean, the first one was the one that really took my heart, when they were talking about how they didn't even know each other and they're working together. But they're only 10 minutes long, but it's really interesting to hear. And if you can support, please get in touch with them. And you know, even if it's just a few pounds or a few hours. One of the things I don't think people understand is that when you run a community organization, it gets to the point you always need money. Always. I'm never going to pretend that we don't, because that's not true. But the thing that we need more than anything else is people to donate their hours. You know, someone to say, like, you know what, 2 hours or a week or something. That's what it is. That's the thing, because we just get fatigued, you know, and then even the projects that we love just vanish because there's this complete burnout. Oh, okay. I think I've done a lot. I think how long have we gone on? I think I said 90 minutes. I think we're almost there. And yeah, I think we made it to the end just in time. I wanted to add this picture. Those of you who know me know that I'm a Malcolm X man, and for a long time I wasn't, you know, too keen of Martin Luther King. I thought, you know, I was, my stupid machoism thought, you know, he wasn't really my kind of guy, and now I appreciate both of them. And I don't know if you know, but today is the anniversary of when they first, if that's the only time they ever met. And I thought I'd share that picture, because we often think that there's only one way to solve a problem, and you know, Brother Malcolm and Brother Martin had different approaches towards dealing with the problem of white supremacy. They were both united in that they wanted it vanquished. And so I just wanted to show this brother of two brothers just like smiling and just kind of like working. And as ever, I want to thank you.
So sorry, before you say
more, there's a message from Joe Williams. We are our liberators. Great work by the sisters. Thanks for your significant service over so many years, Toyin and team.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You know what, that it's just even just that acknowledgement helps a lot. Yeah, it is teamwork. I mean, I always thank Brother Colin for this research. There's those of you who provide the research that don't, you know, that don't need the name out there, but we see you, and we respect and love you for that. And there's those monthly donations continuously, and I know, you know, how challenging it is. I haven't been able to write a newsletter for, well, many months. And I was just thinking the other day, I've got to choose between, do I do the program or do I write a newsletter? The newsletter goes out to more people, but the program is actually more accessible. But I can't do both. And even that's a struggle doing this every 2 weeks, trust me. So just having your words and your company and understanding and support, you know, even when we go wrong, you know, we kind of need to know, you know, much love and much appreciated. And to all of you out there, our community, we are a Pan-African organization. We are, you know, unapologetically focused on the development and the well-being and progression of African people, but we're also human rights centered. You know, we do care about, you know, the entire world. We just don't have any problem saying that we have to look at the issues of African people first and before anyone else. And that's what this program is about. And the last slide I'm going to give you is some of you will know, some of you probably don't know, today, the 27th of March, just like every year, I go with my wife to Westminster Abbey, where my naughtiness really kind of like kicked off a little bit, and we pour libation for our ancestors. And so we did that again today. I just want to thank her. I want to thank you. I want to thank all the amazing African women, specifically, especially in light of the trauma we've been experiencing with the stories we've been having to absorb with things like Child Q. Because all of you we couldn't do this without you. You're sustaining our families, you know, our well-being, our communities, and I say, and I'm not joking, even our planet. And I know this is Mother's Day. I don't really do it at Mother's Day, kind of like Valentine's Day mushiness stuff, but I do want to kind of like put that acknowledgement out there. And I'm going to say something I don't normally say. I want to say that, you know, if those of you who plan long term, Oleander and I are outside Westminster Abbey at midday every year, and we pour libation. And sometimes, you know, like today, it's just by ourselves. Sometimes a couple of people that turn up. But I hope maybe when I'm an ancestor, that there will be thousands of people pouring libation for our ancestors, and kind of like just honoring them in that way and remembering them in that way. So you're always welcome. Put it in your diary now. March the 27th, even if it's raining or snowing, I'll be there.
So thank you for that. That's just so lovely. I didn't expect to see that picture up there. So FPCom says, bless you, Sister Oleander. You are both an amazing couple to be with.
Bless you too, FPComs. Really appreciate you being with us
every week that we do this, every other week, I should say. It's been a beautiful experience being here. And yes, to all the amazing mothers and aunties, and because for me, a mother isn't just someone who has had a baby physically, it's also all of those wonderful women out there who support children. You know, as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So absolutely, for all women out there who support the community, it's really, really important.
Yeah, and with that, I'm just going to say as ever, may the ancestors continue to guide and protect us. Have a blessed week. Ashe.